Wake up, Mr. West, wake up, culture. Wake up, everybody think they so woke, but they following the rules of what woke's supposed to be. We get too caught up in the past and what everyone's saying and what everyone's tweeting, and sometimes you just have to be fearless enough to break the simulation.
Kanye West is getting hit from all sides, ranging from political backlash to Twitter commentary. And now, everyone's calling him anti-Semitic.
I wake up every day just surprised to be alive. Like, because of how many threats I got, from political to, Twitter commentary to all that, just like going through, just be like, boom. I'm exposed because the first step to cleaning up something is like, people be like, man, there's some smell, it just smell like that. It's like, have you checked under that couch? Nobody want to lift up that couch. And if you go to lift up the couch, the whole industry is like, stay away from that couch.
Yeah.
Do not, if you lift up that couch, we're gonna call you anti-Semitic.
Kanye West straight up calls the industry a joke for milking its talent. But are we okay with just letting that slide, or can we do something to make things fairer?
If you lift up that couch, we're gonna call you anti-Semitic. If you say, this is literally, you can read it, and this way y'all can do y'all edits, whatever y'all wanna do. If you say that the lawyer is talking to the manager, is talking to the label, and all you are is a cow, like the meat packagers should come in and out, all you are is a supermodel showing up at the club and then bringing the celebrities around, like, this the new models around, and when they get older, they bring in a new batch. That's who the artists are. There's a joke. That's why I'd be like surprised I'm still alive. There's an industry joke. There's two jokes. One joke that a friend of mine, I'm not gonna put on blast just because it's just about the joke more than it's about the name. For it, but we live for it. We're living.
become overly traditional and we can't advance as a race of beings. And when I mean simulation, this is what I mean by the simulation. Sorry, I know you guys wanted to clap, but everything I'm gonna say is gonna be amazing. We get too caught up in the past and what everyone's saying and what everyone's tweeting, and sometimes you just have to be fearless enough to break the simulation. I'm disagreeing that we need to harp on the things that happen, because the truth is, I'm giving a fact, 50% today of, let's say you don't call black people Jew, right? Black people today is abortion today, right now. Like that, it's not racism. That's too wide of a term. It's and population control that black people are in today in America that is promoted by the music and the media that black people make, that Jewish record labels get paid off of, or media companies, record labels and media company also, so let's give it a wider.
The world's saviors might just be kids armed with engineering and cold, hard facts. Yet Kanye West's warning about fear's grip on our reality casts a shadow over our potential.
As I state these things, I know I have protection. If I have God's protection, that's why I'm here to this date, right? So it's for me to have this platform and express exactly what I feel, because it's kids out there, right, that it's kids that are gonna save the world through engineering and through facts. And I've gotta download as much of the information and as much of don't be afraid to state your facts is the biggest thing, because the world is being ran by fear. And actually God runs the world, but there's just like little cloud, this patina of our ego that deals with the money and the car and the girl we're dating and all this, in the clothes we wear and spending too much on clothes and a lot of stuff that I've been involved with promoting. So now what I'm promoting is, you have the idea, you say it out loud, like if you had Tourette's. Say your truth out loud. If you hate you hate me, say that out loud. Say whatever you feel out loud. Like you say it non-violently, non-violent. I have to say that like as, as a shout out to Alex Jones, and Trump, where they try to say that when they say their truths out loud, that it's inciting violence. So let's be like really clear. I'm saying that they have a free thought. I hate when people use they, like they gets the blame for everything, right? It's always they.
Yeah.
Oh, who the f is they? Exactly.
Problem is they is us.
Yeah. Well, I love that. What we need to do is turn I to we. So we take the responsibility and turn they to us. So we take accountability to us.
People are trying to shut down Kanye's voice and cancel him out. But he's got a point. He says that the real racism is feeling like you have to vote for someone just because of your race. So, are we okay with silencing different opinions? And can we look beyond skin color when choosing leaders?
I love this also because Kobe Bryant won 5 championships. He sprained all kind of muscles all through his body, tore ligaments. And for people to go to Kanye West, where I'm playing in the highest level of mental sport, I had Mark Zuckerberg wanting to meet with me. You know what I'm saying? I had people come to want to meet with me that are makers of the world at this point. So I'm playing at this mental sport as a black man, post-Pac, post-Biggie, Puff Daddy, Jay-Z, in debt, completely controlled. The management knows how much exactly you're making on your tour, and it's just $2 less than what your house costs. And I'm ending up in debt every year. And then I have a breakdown. I should have a hospital in the back of our room for what I'm dealing with. Don't NBA players got like knees iced every time? I need to just like leave every day, just go right to UCLA for the level of game and sport that I'm working at. But we don't make Kobe's legacy be about one torn ligament, and my legacy ain't about, oh, he got mental health. That just come with the level of sport I'm playing at. What you talking about? People's trying to sun me left and right, strategize. I've been canceled. Right. I've been canceled before they had cancel culture. I was canceled before they had the term.
Do you care about any of that?
I do. I care about everything. We brainwashed out here, bro. Come on, man. This is a free man talking. Democrats had us voting Democrats for food stamps for years, bro. What is you talking about? It's in the 80s, taking the fathers out the home, Plan B, lowering our votes, making us abort our children. I can't tell y'all how to feel, but what I can tell you honestly is how I feel. And when I sat there, 7 years in, 6 years in, to the Obama administration, when I was sitting at the Met balls, when I was sitting in front of white people and they thought, I wouldn't thought you would like Trump because of the racism. So you mean to tell me I make every decision based off my color? The most racist thing a person could tell me is that I'm supposed to choose something based on my race. If that was the case, I wouldn't have never wore a pink polo. I wouldn't have never wear skinny jeans. Everywhere I go, people pants smaller than mine. And I'm the one who, you eat fish sticks because I had skinny jeans on. I'm the guy who said, stop bashing, right? I took that L. Consequence took that L. He had to go to Queens the next day. He took, you know what I'm saying? Like, hip hop was dropping F-bombs, and I said, stop. You can play the footage. I said, stop it. As soon as I said, close on Sunday, just like Chick-fil-A, there was LGBTQ articles saying they need to boycott my company. I said George Bush don't care about black people. As soon as I wore a red hat, I'm a coon. You can't do enough for nobody out here. So how about it? I stop. You get what I'm saying? People forget so quick. Think about that. God is showing that you can have your own thoughts, bro. I've been canceled before there was cancel culture. Who told you that my career would be over? The same people that are telling you that you can't have a right to say who you will vote for, those people will be soon to take Jesus out the school. Those people will be soon to remove Jesus, period, from America, which is the Bible Belt. Like, wake up, Mr. West, wake up, culture. Wake up. Everybody think they so woke, but they following the rules of what woke's supposed to be. Why am I protected? Why did I become the richest black man of all time? Like, how did that happen? So the ultimate service position is leader of the free world, to be the president of the United States. We get too caught up in the past and what everyone's saying and what everyone's tweeting. And sometimes you just have to be fearless enough to break the simulation. What they do, what schools are doing is exactly what the CIA does with Pixar films and Disney films.
Kanye West boldly proclaims that the ultimate service lies in leading the free world, aspiring to the presidency of the United States.
It's funny, you know, in this world that we live in, there's two main motivating forces, and I tweet about it all the time. It's love or fear. And you can't explain love. You know, my cousin is locked up, and I love him. And so he did a bad thing, but I still love him.
Reflecting on societal battles, West acknowledges the futility of challenging entrenched indoctrination and media conglomerates.
The Disney guys, you know, you might not believe in God, but God believes in you. It's not a battle you can win. It's like, don't jump, Anakin, I have the higher ground kind of situation. So you could put out all of the indoctrinations and, you know, moves and have the biggest media company, but why am I alive? It's difficult to make me unhappy. Now I can deal with frustrations, but when those frustrations are, it's like when you've allowed people to be in your life that shouldn't be there, and then they do the thing you knew they were gonna do, and you're screaming at them, but you really need to scream at yourself.
I thought it was good. I thought it was what I was supposed to do at that time. Yeah. You know, if I see something, I see an opportunity, I'm going to go for it. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? We only, you know, we're all going to die one day.
Yeah, it's true.
So we live like that. Live like you could die tomorrow. You know, go for it. those steps have been the the platforms that allowed me to make it this far.
West reveals the personal cost of expressing support for Trump, facing ostracism within the Black community for diverging from monolithic thought.
And just as a musician, African American, guy out in Hollywood, all these different things, everyone around me tried to pick my candidate for me. Mm-hmm. And then told me every time I said I like Trump that I couldn't say it out loud or my career would be over. I'd get kicked out the Black community because Blacks we're supposed to have a monolithic thought. We can only be Democrats and all. So even when I said it right before I went to the hospital and I expressed myself, and when I came out, I had lost my confidence. So I didn't have the confidence to take on the world and the possible backlash. And it took me a year and a half to have the confidence to stand up and put on the hat, no matter what the consequences were. And what it represented to me is not about policies, and because I'm not a politician like that, but it represented overcoming fear and doing what you felt, no matter what anyone said, and saying, you can't bully me. Liberals can't bully me, news can't bully me, the hip hop community, they can't bully me. Because at that point, if I'm afraid to be me, I'm no longer Ye. That's what makes Ye. And I actually quite enjoy when people actually are mad at me about certain things.
You must enjoy it.
Yeah. I actually quite enjoy it.
Because your wife was mad at you, right? I mean, according to your song, your wife was upset about that.
Right or wrong, or even if I changed my mind about it or thought about it more, which I'm not saying I did, just place a thought out there that everyone's not thinking sometimes.
Embracing his faith, West asserts that aligning with God will lead to divine favor and success.
Why am I protected? Why did I become the richest Black man of all time? How did that happen? And the more and more I lean into God and work for God, the more wins God is going to bestow on our team, on Jesus Gang. And for me to go out and just state an obvious and empathetic statement in the middle of the most liberal central, that was like Tiananmen Square or something, right? I was like, with Candace Owens, and we both wore the shirt at the same time. We got some Jesus soldiers out here, and people say they're willing for it, but we live for it. We're living for the battle. And what's the battle for? Life itself, our children. They're killing us through the food. They're killing us through the content. They're killing us through the programming. But God is alive, and is alive in all of us, and we will overcome.
West exposes the manipulation of Black trauma for political gain, condemning the exploitation of suffering for electoral victories.
Soros would use Black trauma economy to win an election. What I love is having a healthy conversation. And as opposed to, there's certain things, boom, this drops, people gonna have hats on. Boom, this drops, it's gonna be, Black people and white people with signs. Boom, this drops. So, hey, China, hey, left agenda, hey, what we're gonna do is say that our species can have a healthy conversation.
With unwavering resolve, West welcomes challenges as opportunities for growth and problem solving.
And the whole thing, the comparison to this church to me going and saying, okay, why am I running for president, is to be in service. And that service to my own ego. I feel like God says to me, haven't I given you enough? And I gave you an ego that helped you overcome all these, roadblocks and smoke screens and people telling you what you can't do. Now you need to realize when you're doing things for your ego and when you're doing things for me, this is like God, what I feel God is saying to me. Because it really irritates me when people say, God told me to tell you. So I'm very mindful
with this kind of wording. I'm saying I have a feeling that that's what God is saying, for me to be in service. So the ultimate service position is leader of the free world, to be the president of the United States. It's sometimes you see me on Twitter, I say, I want all the smoke. I want all the problems, because the problems are the opportunities. There's an opportunity to solve things. And Kurzweil, he created the keyboard Kurzweil. He has this video that Mark Romanek, this director that shot 99 Problems for Jay-Z, which is like my favorite, maybe like top 5 or top 2 favorite videos of all time. He also did Closer for Trent Reznor, and I just grew up on MTV in the 90s, and I love Mark Romanek videos. But he would share, he'd share little bits and pieces. And I remember Ray Kurzweil talking about the ability for us to have a utopia, but us being led by the least noble and the most greedy.
West challenges societal norms, advocating for fearlessness in breaking free from traditional constraints to advance as a collective.
I think people focus too much on the past and focus too much on regret. Even like when you deal with schools, like you take like the idea. My point is, I've heard of history class. I've never heard of a class that breaks down how you balance a checkbook or how you control your finances, which my father never taught me that. And I've never heard of a future class. So they keep us so focused on history that we start to believe that it actually repeats itself. And we become overly traditional, and we can't advance as a race of beings. We get too caught up in the past and what everyone's saying and what everyone's tweeting. And sometimes you just have to be fearless enough to break the simulation. And when I mean simulation, this is what I mean by the simulation. Sorry, I know you guys wanted to clap, but everything I'm gonna say is gonna be amazing.
Critiquing historical narratives, West highlights the erasure of African greatness, lamenting the portrayal of Africans primarily as servants.
What they do, what schools are doing, is exactly what the CIA does with Pixar films and Disney films. They make Bambi's mom in the beginning, right? And off that pain comes a purchase of ice cream. Off that pain comes, I need some more toys. Off that pain comes, I need a bigger house. Off that pain comes, I need more girls than my wife. Off that pain comes, so they put that pain in to make us, now we're the orphans of capitalism, to make us be consumers. And we need to be a community, not just consumers. So I could have went another 7 minutes by being a person who presents himself in a way that says, well, I don't have to feel your pain because I also have pain too that's not being recognized. And in every interview, when I say, well, why did I get to the point of putting up the tweet? No one wants to understand why I got to that point, right?
You had pain. You had pain.
Yeah, but no one.
Pain in your heart.
But let's say this. Undoubtedly, Jewish people have a lot of movies about that pain, and Black people have a lot of movies about the pain of, right? It's almost impossible to find a movie about Mansa Musa. When you go to the African History Museum in Washington, D.C., it doesn't start with the idea of Africans being kings. It starts with the idea of Africans being...
West pays homage to Michael Jackson for breaking down racial barriers in the music industry, paving the way for artists like himself.
Yeah, it's just the way I was consuming information in my life at that time, information from, whatever, negative information or positive information from the internet. Me, just going to the Louvre, and going to furniture exhibits and understanding that, trying to open up and do interviews with this, learning more about architecture, taking 1,000 meetings, attempting to get backing to do clothing and different things like that, and getting no headway whatsoever, because, and it was just that level of frustration. And that's what, this is what frustration fucking sounds like.
Yeah.
This is what frustration sounds like. Like for me as Kanye West, I would not be Kanye West if it wasn't for Michael Jackson. I was with Quincy Jones a couple of days ago at John Legend's wedding. Quincy was telling me it wasn't just Mike, but these guys broke down, the barriers. Of course, like Michael Jackson, like he had to fight to get his video played because he was black. This is Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson's not even black. He's Michael Jackson. You know what I mean? It's like like saying he's so crazy. Like, how can he even be just classified as like, this black artist? So for me, in my life and creativity, it's been challenging. Yeah, it's been challenging and everything. But I was able to ascend to massive levels of heights and never stop, right? Because of the foundation that my mother and my father and my grandfather laid through civil rights, what Michael Jackson did with music videos and the ground he broke. There would be no Kanye West if it wasn't for Michael Jackson.
Delving into existential musings, West shares insights into the concept of living in a simulation, probing the nature of reality and existence.
Someone, or when someone gets in a position of leadership that is in service to God and in service to people, period, but immediately the American people. I had this joke I was saying, like, man, no one outside of our country should be able to see these debates. This is family business right here. This is only for America to see. We can't let anyone outside the country see it. But to be in service. So I stepped away already from my rap career for a year and served God every week, sometimes twice a week, 3 times a week, never missed a Sunday until, and this is the thing, there were people inside of the church stealing, doing different things, trying to just take them, and God still provided a way for us to keep that boat afloat. We never missed a service. And then one of my pastors, Pastor Adam, who is the way he preaches is called expository. It's like 1-to-1 by the word. Here's the idea why you're in a simulation. Let's start with acting, first of all. And a 2-year-old screams at a restaurant, the entire restaurant screams, teach that kid how to act. We're all unpaid actors in some giant script that we didn't write. Simulation, a 2-year-old jumps on a coffee table and someone says, that's a coffee table, don't jump on that. So it went from being something that makes him feel like Superman, he's got his cape on, to something where he has to think about this person's like a family member he doesn't like anyway. He's 2 years old, he doesn't give a about a coffee or a table. And he's starting to like calculate all these things. And by the time you're 40 years old, you've got a wall full of coffee tables calculating you into traffic, calculating you into your career choice, calculating you into this townhouse that's not quite as big as the townhouse next, and it just never works. That's the simulation that I'm talking. That's what I mean when I say simulation. I'm disagreeing that we need to harp on the things that happen, because the truth is, I'm giving a fact. 50% today of, let's say you don't call black people Jew, right? Black people today is abortion today, right now. Like that, it's not racism. That's too wide of a term. It's and population control that black people are in today in America that is promoted by the music and the media that black people make, that Jewish record labels get paid off of, or media companies. Record labels and media company also, so let's give it a wider. Well, I've reached a point in my life where my Truman Show boat has hit the painting. And I've got to a point that Michael Jackson did not break down. I have reached the glass ceiling. As a creative person, as a celebrity. When I say that, it means I want to do product. I am a product person, not just clothing, but water bottle design, architecture, everything, that you could, think about. And I've been at it for 10 years.
And I look around, I say, wait a second, there's no one around here in this space that looks like me. And if they are, they're quiet as. So that means, wait a second, now we're seriously like in a civil rights movement. Like people used to joke about, do you remember our South Park photo?
Yeah, I do.
Remember how funny that was? Do you think there would be a Givenchy in the hood if it wasn't for that South Park photo?
Yeah.
But no one thinks about that. No one thinks about the names I got called for like wearing tight jeans. This person, I'm gonna listen to the kids, bro. You know, I'm gonna listen to my daughter. I'm gonna listen to kids before I listen to, you know, super programmed out adults. And especially if that adult hasn't done something that I am looking to do.
Right.
So it's so funny how people are so like free and almost arrogant with their advice. And I'm just like, why would I listen to you? That was the first one. I was inspired after seeing this Alexander McQueen film, because this is a beautiful, amazing artist that himself, and he always would talk about it. He even designed his own casket, and I've thought of like casket design. I thought about a tombstone that said, "Are you happy now?" So
It's funny, but not funny, really, though, because you know when you have thoughts like that, you have to be careful and talk to people.
Yeah, but you have to be careful and, well, not be careful, just be expressive and understand that all these people are sensitive people. Like you get these celebrities and they get a bad photo and everyone just tears them all the way to shreds, and you forget that this is a daughter, a son, a mom, a dad. And, you know, I think I fight for all of us.
they created, there was a Jewish trainer that brought me to the hospital and put in press that I went to the hospital. I know friends that off of exhaustion, a Jewish doctor, they
Why do you keep saying Jewish?
because they were, right? Diagnosed me with bipolar disorder and me with medication and put me on medication, then put it in the press. And every time, even if I wore the wrong color hat that I was not supposed to wear, right? Then they take on the world. Yeah, he got some nice $5,000 jeans in there. It's some nice ones here and there, some good here and there. But we culture. Rap the new rock and roll. We culture. Rap is the new rock and roll. We the rock stars.
It's been like that now for a minute.
It's been like that for a minute, Hedy Slimane. It's been like that for a minute.
And
We the real rock stars, and I'm the biggest of all of them. I'm the #1 rock star on the planet. So you said my son wants to hear a rap album from Ye, and that was the paradigm shift for me. I use that word a lot. I like that. I like paradigm shift. It's one of my favorite words. And I made this rap album, and you know, for a lot of people, it was the first album that they could play with a certain production level in the house with their family. Now, you know, you could argue if the Watch the Throne production was stronger or better than Jesus is King production, but when I go and I've been working with Dr. Dre, and some of the beats would just be like, you know, the hardest beats possible. And it's something that was very spiritual and meditative about the mix on Jesus is King, that it wasn't hitting as hard as Jesus or hitting as hard as Watch the Throne. It was like, this is how God wanted me to make this sonic painting and the way he wanted me to communicate. Then so we did that album, and then we did the Jesus is Born album, which also I got that idea from Pastor Adams. And I mean, there's people who that's the only album they play, and it's just bringing these gospel. And I tell you, like, my formula for these hymns I'm writing, because I'm writing the songs that we're doing at Sunday service is basically my book of hymns for the future gospel university. You guys don't understand that I've met with companies and they say, what we're trying to figure out is how we can control you and control that.
If you're an architect, if you're a world builder, if you have all these ideas and you're Gaudi and you want to build buildings, if you don't ever get that out, what's gonna happen?
Isn't that why you do it? Isn't it the process? Isn't it the point?
Y'all don't think
to
you're
do
really
it?
hearing what I'm saying.
But I'm trying to.
As a creative,
Yeah.
for you to have done something to the level of the Yeezys and not be able to create more. And you cannot create that on your own with no support, with no backing. So when I say clean water was only served to the fairer skin, what I'm saying is we're making product with chitlins, t-shirts. That's the most we can make. T-shirts. To be hot and make money then I eventually want to be the anchor and the force behind $1 billion company. And after I made that $1 billion step, then I can go in and say, hey, I've got an opinion on this. And that could be a $10 billion step. And I eventually want to be the anchor of the first $1 trillion company.
What Da Vinci tried to do at 80, I did at 6 years old because I had been working on it perhaps from a past life. The Euclidean mindset has kept us so locked away. Like there's tons of paperwork of Da Vinci working on the flower of life and trying to unravel it.
Terrence Howard mentioned something about an ancient discovery called the flower of life, which represents one of the oldest images we have.
The oldest images that we have from antiquity and found on every continent is this image where 64 circles are overlapped. And it's called the flower of life. And on every continent it was found, in whatever language, it was always called the flower of life.
Made 6,000 years ago, messes with us because we can't draw a straight line in it. Can we really understand these old shapes? Or are we clueless?
Well, 6,000 years ago, or however long ago, someone had the clever idea of saying, you know what, why don't I draw straight lines where the circles overlap?
He questions the use of straight lines in constructing platonic solids, arguing that energy in the universe is expressed through curved waves due to the principle of equal and opposite reactions.
They began to average the space where the circles overlap. So that tetrahedron that we see, because we know that there are no straight lines because all energy has an equal and opposite. Let's pause it for a second, just so I can repeat that. All energy is expressed in motion, all motion expressed in waves, and all waves are curved. Therefore, it is impossible to create a straight line because every action has the equal and opposite reaction, and the greater that reaction.
Terrence found math problems that arise from creating straight lines where there are none. Let's see his explanation.
The greater the resistance and the greater that curvature. This curvature is the equanimity of all the interactions within a particular system. It all balances out into these perfect spheres, which are magnetic fields around each other, which is a discharging aspect. And where these magnetic fields interact, this is where electricity begins. Where they overlap, they're forced to create spin. But 6,000 years ago, they said they're going to average the spin, and these toroidals happening, and they generated straight lines and approximated where the energy goes, so you can keep playing it. And now you can clearly see that even the cube, where we get Pythagorean theorem from, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, is an average. It's an approximation. All of these problems arose from them creating straight lines where there were no straight lines. And this has been called, the greatest discovery, basically, in geometry.
Energy's all about that never-ending cycle. Acting? Yeah, it was fun. But physics? That's where Terrence found his spiritual groove. Now he's cooking up these fresh wave and tear mixes, waving goodbye to the old-school Euclidean scene.
And for mathematics.
And that's the Platonic solids you're speaking about.
The Platonic solids are averages. Euclid went to Egypt and pulled these things and wrote them down, and everyone took credit for them, but they took credit for some falsehoods. So they've watched it go through, and it'll go through the dodecahedron. So what I decided to do, what I was instructed to do, was to take the same flower.
You may think you've been here for 20 years on this planet, but we know that energy, it is forever. It continually recycles itself. So you know that you've been a trilobite 350 million years ago, or some part of it. Some parts of you were part of a pterodactyl. Every one of us have been a part of everything in this universe. So if we tap into those things in ourselves and remember those things in ourselves, we have that power. Now, my vocation has been an actor, and I've loved that. I've been able to take care of my family as an actor. But that's never been my passion. I was an actor because it was like Jesus walking on water for tips, because he could do it. That's what he did. It was a natural thing for him. I've always been an empath. I've always been emotionally connected to everything. way of thinking and missing the curvature of nature. So here we are, back with the curvature of nature. And you have all these little pieces. Now, this has always been an information system. So compare some of these points, take a point here, and say, well, what's the space in between all of these things? Now, they've said that all the in-between spaces, if this is the Earth and this is the moon right here, all this in-between space is filled with what? A void. There's nothing in the void. Well, I found that there is something in the void. The elementary fundamental particles that they've been searching for at the CERN Collider, the Hadron Collider in CERN, I found that their energy signatures matched perfectly to some of the pieces that I was able to pull out of here. The idea of, like one of the things I've been saying, the Euclidean mindset has kept us so locked away. Like there's tons of paperwork of Da Vinci working on the flower of life and trying to unravel it. But every single existence, every single example, you see him making straight lines and trying to make these straight lines bend in, and therefore he was never able to open it up. Because the universe is curved, all space is curved. And as a result, what I was doing in trying to find these straight lines, I abandoned the idea of the straight line. The shortest distance between 2 points is curved space, because you cannot force your way straight through space. Even electricity, as it moves from a southern plane to a northern plane, it always goes northeast in its direction. And magnetism, as it expands out, it goes southwesterly. And that's the spin. That's how you always know whether it's magnetism or electricity. It's the spin. Is it northeast or is it southwest? But in trying to define curved matter, I'm so sorry, I get so distracted. Trying to define the spaces, it allowed me to see that all of these in between, what we have been dealing with is these petals. All of mankind have dealt with these petals, but it's these other shapes that we've ignored constantly. Well, those other shapes were the in-between spaces. They were the things that filled up the vacuum of space. And all these particles that I have, I think are the full proof of that. And it is also the full proof of the wave particle argument.
Terrence Howard says it's all about chemical reactions. He wonders why every bubble we blow turns into a circle.
Everything is based on chemical reactions. In order for me to become a character, I have to change my chemical composition of how I'm thinking, and as a result, that changes how I position myself, which changes how the heat is generated and transferred out in and out of my body. Everything comes down to chemistry. You know, so acting in physics, in physics, when two things are drawn to each other, it's because they are of similar charge. It's not positive, because they say negatives attract. But cold air drops down. Does it attract to the hot air rising up? No, it passes right by each other. Because negatives, opposites don't attract. It's positives that attract to each other. Two positives drawn to each other, two negatives discharge each other. So it's all about physics to me. It's all about chemistry, and it's how the physics, how another actor is relating to me. A slight change in his body language changes my tone. It's all physics. And I came out and I was born. The first thing I thought about when I was 5 years old, I was obsessed with bubbles. I was like, why does a bubble take the shape of a ball? Why not a square or a triangle? And I would go and try and make square or triangular bubbles. And you could never do it, because it turns out everything expands as a sphere and everything contracts in geometric form. You drop a pebble into the pond, it expands in a perfect sphere unless there's something in the way. The moment it hits the edge of the shore and starts to come back, it's the contracting waves that hit the expanding waves that creates the initial geometries. Everything expands as a sphere, everything contracts in geometry and fits, basically. So what I'm saying, and what I tried to tell you guys earlier, this is not your first time, it's not your first rodeo, and it won't be your last rodeo. Don't panic in this life. You can actually, there's no sense of everything goes to sleep and it wakes back up again. Refolds and unfolds, refolds and unfolds. And if you're wise, if you're careful, because you can remember conscious moments in your life, can't you? You can remember moments when you're like, wait a minute, I'm in a bigger space than just this little body right here. You become fully aware of everything around you. And if you quiet yourself, you can think about those things. Well, apparently I did that at the last passage, because when I came into this life, I woke up, remember, don't forget, don't forget, don't forget, don't forget, don't forget. And the first thing I did was worked out the flower of life. When I was 6 years old, I started making these pieces.
Terrence Howard credits his research breakthroughs to energy from his past life. Are we just carrying echoes from before, or is there something more to it?
What Da Vinci tried to do at 80, I did at 6 years old because I had been working on it perhaps from a past life. Now, I'm not trying to say I'm crazy or this reincarnation or anything, but we know that energy just reboots itself. So we are eternal, so stop panicking, thinking your life is over. You've done this trillions of times. You'll get good at it and we'll be perfect one time if we get conscious. But we have to get conscious, because I can either say I'm the smartest man in the world, that I figured out what nobody else in the world could figure out. With Aristotle, with Plato, Pythagoras, all of them tried to figure this out, but I know I am not smarter than these men. So I know that there's something to the consciousness of carrying things through, because the information and the knowledge that I have, I didn't go to school. I had a 1.6 grade point average graduating from high school because I had other things to do. But this information kind of educated me along the way because I was born into it. And now I have the pieces to follow it, and hopefully Chris and maybe Oxford and will do some of the vetting for these things, and we can change the world. But if not, I'll keep doing it, and I'll do it in the next lifetime. If not this one, and the next lifetime after that. Just remember, and another thing, don't forget, you know, you go from positive to negative, everything polarizes positive to negative, then more than likely, with each lifetime, male to female, male to female, if the universe is consistent. I think it is.
Terrence Howard throws shade at traditional math on elementary particles, insisting it needs a serious reboot.
What I've done is I've figured out about 7 different elementary particles, fundamental particles. And then there were secondary generational particles that seemed to occur. And when these things began to build up more and more, sense, and it does not make math make sense. So these are some things that I'm bringing to the fore and that I would like to question. I would like to audit the math, the world of mathematics, and I would like to audit how we view the Platonic solids, because I think the new wave conjugations will tell a better story of how our world works.
Our currency system's flawed by greed.
one has got us. This inconsistency of our monies and our economy is sitting in the balance. And the rest of our future is sitting in the balance because our science has been stunted as a result of the problems in mathematics, because math asks for the basic laws of physics to break down in order for 1 times 1 to equal 1. In order for 1 times 0 to equal nothing, laws of conservation of energy has to disappear. And math is, the foundating laws of math is supposed to support the laws of physics. They are arm in arm. They cannot be in controversy with each other. So we need an audit on the Platonic solids, we need an audit on the square root of 2, and we need an audit on action and reaction, or we either got to get rid of, we say 1 times 1 equals 1, and there's no action and reaction. One or the other, you can't have both. And until we make that change, we're in trouble. We're gonna be stunted as a species.
Terrence Howard says we've got it wrong about magnetism and radiation being all bad. They're actually crucial for making new stuff.
I mean, you got to remember, we've been here since the very beginning. You know, there is no good or bad. It's just your perspective that you're sitting from. Is it beneficial for everyone around, or is it not? There's something that has to build up, and there's something that needs to tear it down. You know, what we call the tearing of it down, we call it evil or bad, but that's the process of magnetism or radiation. Radiation tears apart that which was concentrically brought together through electric potential and electric force. Electricity is always seeking a higher pressure condition, trying to get to the center of the apex, whereas magnetism is spinning southwesterly, trying to get out. But the magnetism is necessary, because unless it broke apart that which was collected together, you would never have any new material to rebuild again. And that's the breathing in and the breathing out of universal purpose. Now, so at the end of the day, since the Creator made all things, and everything came from the Creator.
Terrence Howard says science just helps us understand nature, and he thinks calling something bad is all about how you see it.
Well, science is to explain natural phenomena. The whole point of science was to explain natural phenomena, and it should coincide with what takes place in the observable universe. And that should strengthen one's faith. And that's why I said, as above, so below. So if here everything has an equal and opposite mate, and is necessary in order for the proliferation of life and the continuation of the cycle that is just sleeping, and then you refold again and you're reborn again. There is nothing that is bad except how you are perceiving it, and whether it's beneficial to everyone around you, because something needs to tear things apart. The FDA had 6 different grand juries to try and indict this man. And every time they did that, he had his patients that came in there, patients that were supposed to be dead 25 years ago, that are sitting there with their entire families, saying that I am here as a result of this man's work. But if I had followed my course, my mother would still be here. But again, that's like the time traveler, you know, he developed a time machine so he can go back and get his wife, but it was his wife that led him to build the time machine. So no matter what, he was always going to be repeating that. And I had to recognize that the universe doesn't make any mistakes. My mother was here long enough to do what she needed to do, but her passing reminded me that I had more work to do, and that I was not fulfilling my true capacity. And so I stepped out to do what I needed to do, and that's with the world of science. That's just trying to illuminate and elevate our species so that we can become balanced with the universe. There's 4 levels of species. A level 1 society has complete control over his planet. And the resources, and they're able to balance with it. A level 2 society would have complete control over their sun and the solar system. A level 3 society would have complete control of the galaxy and its energy, and able to work with it. And level 4 society what civilization would have complete control over the universe and know how to work within it. Well, that's not possible when you have imaginary straight lines in a world, in the universe, where if all energy in the universe is expressed in motion, and all motion is expressed in waves, and all waves are curved. So it's like, where did they get the straight lines to make the platonic solids? If every action in the universe has an equal and opposite reaction, which we know it does, and therefore the greater the action, the greater the reaction, the greater the reaction, the greater the resistance, the greater the resistance, the greater the curvature. Therefore, everything has curvature. So where did they get the straight lines to make the platonic solids? When I was examining the human body and, the digits or fingers, they have the same nerves that run into our teeth. The same exact nerves. Our teeth would be fingers. They're an example. That's why you don't go and let them take your teeth out to put somebody else's pretend smile on you. But also with the human mind, over 60% of our mind is geared towards our digits, our hands. So if you're only writing with one hand, you're losing half of your brain's potential. And if our legs behave the way our hands behave, where only one leg was dominant, then we would be crippled. And so I started writing when I was a teenager. I started writing backwards first I started writing with my left hand. Then I was like, why am I only writing in one direction? And what I found when I switched from my right hand to my left hand, that it was a different personality. It was a different kind of writing. It was like my brain had reversed itself. But then when I started writing backwards, it polarized.